Hey guys, it's Heather, Running Geek Girl, and I'm here with another video. I thought since it's a nice gray, drizzly day outside and I'm enjoying a cup of coffee, that I would tell you a little bit about my running story and where I'm coming from. So, starting out as a kid, I was sick a lot. I was more of a reader than a player. I spent time outside, but not a whole lot of time. I was one of the kids who would not run very fast in PE classes. I'm just not naturally athletic at all. In 7th grade, I was asked to join the track team because they asked us to run around the track, and I was tired of running, so I just kind of sprinted ahead of everyone and finished really quickly. And for some reason, they thought that meant that I could run really well, when really I couldn't. I ended up quitting the track team because I was a little more involved in drama club at that point, and that's kind of where my heart was. After that, I didn't really do any kind of athletic activity unless I really had to, PE classes and things like that in high school and in college. But beyond that, nothing really athletic in my life. At the age of 19, I was diagnosed with depression, and the doctor did recommend, in addition to medication, that I look at my diet and my exercise, and yet I still didn't really do a whole lot about it. I would take the occasional aerobics class or Zumba class. Just nothing was really clicking with me. And then when I was about 25, 26 years old, my metabolism started catching up with me, and I started putting on weight. So here I was going into my 30s. I was depressed. I was out of shape. I was gaining weight, and I was just generally not really happy with myself. After I had my first kid when I was about 35, I wanted to start getting back into shape, but I just didn't even know where to start. And then out of nowhere, my sister calls me up and says, she contacted me on Facebook and said, there's this race that they're doing in Arizona, and they're looking for people to do the virtual option, and they want all 50 states represented, and there's nobody from Arkansas, so do you want to sign up? Running a 5K was something that I'd always had in the back of my mind. There is a foundation that's here in town that has a 5K race that they do every spring called the Stride to Prevent Suicide. All the money goes toward education on depression and helping people with depression find resources. And so that's something that I kind of always wanted to do anyway, was to run that 5K and kind of be a part of that, because that was something important to me. I thought to myself, well, I guess I could do a virtual 5K and just see what it's like. I tried doing a Couch to 5K program. I tried several different Couch to 5K programs. So if you want, I can do reviews later on what worked and what didn't work for me on various programs. I just couldn't get my mind into it. I wasn't really making any progress. And then finally came across a Couch to 5 program that worked for me, and that was Zombies Run, which has their own 5K option that you can download and you can train with. And for some reason, that one just really clicked with me, and that one really did the trick. And starting out, I could only run about 15 or 20 seconds, and then I would just be absolutely miserable. But it's something that I just wanted to keep doing. I kept wanting to come back to the stories. I wanted to come back to those characters, and so it kept me motivated. So when I finished their 5K program, I ran 5K very, very, very slowly on a treadmill, but I finished my first 5K. I got that virtual run medal, and that sense of accomplishment just felt amazing to me. It was something that I kind of fell in love with. I wasn't making a whole lot of progress, but I thought to myself, what if I tried a half marathon in about 6 months? So I signed up for a half marathon and gave myself months and months to prepare for it. And the day came. I think my longest run at that point had been about 10 miles. And again, this was with running and walking. And I didn't do my research, but no one told me that this course was pretty hilly. And I got there that day, and it was a rainy day. So I'm trying to tackle 13.1 miles for the first time. And I'm running up and down hills, and getting soaked, and yet I made it to the finish line. It took forever to get to the finish line, but I made it, and I remember laughing so hard I started crying because I was just so surprised that I made it. I attempted to do a marathon just a couple of months later because I thought, okay, if I can do a half marathon, maybe I can step things up. And then training kind of fell apart at that point, but I tried to do the marathon anyway. I got right in between mile 19 and 20, and it was so warm and so humid, and I was so underprepared that all of a sudden I was running along, and my brain was saying, why aren't we going very fast? And that's when my body gave out on me. And next thing I knew, the medics were pulling me from the course saying, okay, you're not going to be able to finish. Made a note to myself, I made a promise to myself that I was going to come back and do a marathon again, but I needed to back up and try again. Ever since that point, I started thinking to myself, what if I just concentrate on 5Ks and half marathons, because those were the distances that I seemed to really like. I signed up to do another half marathon about a year or so later. I had a slightly better time. I hit a new PR, but it still wasn't great. But I was so sore and so tired. I was unusually tired, and it was taking me forever to recover. And so when I finally went to a doctor to see if maybe I was getting sick or something, that's when I found out that I was pregnant with baby number 2 and that I had just run a half marathon with her. After baby number 2 came along, I hit postpartum depression very, very hard. It was really, really hard for me to snap out of. So I was caught in that loop again of being depressed. Nothing was working. My diet was falling apart. My training just wasn't happening. And finally told myself that I had to snap out of it. Thankfully, my parents were around and were able to take the baby and take her bigger brother and watch them so that I could go for short runs or go for a short session at a gym. And I started very, very slowly building back up. I wasn't trying to push for anything. And finally, I started clicking on all these different ideas that I had been reading about but never really understood. I started making improvements in my pace, in my foot strike, in my cadence. Lots of different things were all of a sudden starting to fall into place and make sense to me. My strength training started taking more of a priority, and so it was helping to improve everything that I was doing running wise, and everything just kind of started building up a little bit better. I started running faster. I was able to run longer, and again, it was because I was taking baby steps the entire time, trying to build everything up the best that I could and making sure that I had a super solid base before I tackled anything else. On top of all of that, I started taking a closer look at what I was eating, when I was eating, how I was eating. I started doing a lot more meal planning, a lot more meal prep, researching what I was eating, paying attention to the things that I needed before and after a run, things that were affecting how I was training and how I was feeling. And all of a sudden, I noticed that I was running farther, I was running faster, I was feeling better, and on top of that, I was much happier. I was able to take care of my family better, I was able to take care of myself better, and things just really started making an improvement. Where I am now is I have recently been able to hit some PRs in 5K, and which again is really hard to do, and it's taken me 5 years to get to the point where I can run at a pace that I'm feeling really good about. I was able to run my first actual 10K. I'd attempted a 10K before. I walked it. I was having a lot of GI issues in my first 10K, and things just weren't going really well for me that day. I attempted another 10K about a year ago, and ended up doing really well, placed second in my age group, and just felt overall really good about it. I've been doing a lot more half marathon training, and I'm going to, actually by the time you see this, I should be on my way to Florida to run the Princess Half Marathon at Walt Disney World, and hopefully by the end of the year we'll be able to run a half marathon with no walk breaks. That's my goal right now. and by January I would like to be able to complete the Walt Disney World Marathon. It's been 5 years since I tried a marathon, and I think it's time for me to try again. So this is where my running story is right now. I'm just someone that fell in love with running and tried to do everything that I could to make it work for me. It's done a whole lot for me, and I'm hoping it can do a lot for you too. So if you stick around this channel, I'd love to be able to give you some of the tips that I know I needed when I was first starting out, and be able to help you on your running journey as well. In some upcoming videos, I'll be showing what's happened with me at the Walt Disney World Princess Weekend, running the half marathon, and I'd like to be able to talk about exactly where you need to get started before your first run, and give you some of the resources that I checked into, things that I wish that I knew about when I first started running, things that I wish I had, or things that I had that I didn't necessarily need, and some other YouTube channels that are great resources for anybody that's wanting to run, wanting to strength train. Don't neglect your strength training like I did. It took a long time for me to realize that I was doing something stupid by not paying attention to my strength training. So stick around. I promise videos are only going to get better from here. I'm doing what I can, but you know, this is fun, and I'm glad to be here on YouTube. I'm glad to be here for you, and I hope to see you in the next video. See you guys later.